I'm going to call the full commission workshop on the budget for 24-25 to order on June 13th at 6 p.m. So there is a roll coming around that I'll need you to sign since no one is here from the clerk's office tonight. That will be the roll that will go out officially. So welcome, and let's get this meeting underway. I need a motion to approve the agenda. If you saw it, I emailed it today. You don't have a hard copy. It was emailed. Basically all it says. Okay, Layla made a motion and Dr. Acuff is a second on that. All in favor of approving the budget as sent to you earlier today, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, agenda is approved. We will now have the pledge of allegiance and prayer. And I'm going to ask Bob Acuff if you'll lead us in the pledge, and Brad Johnson, will you lead us in our prayer this evening?
I'll be on it.
Go ahead and do the prayer first.
Father God, we come in your presence and we want to give praise and honor to you and to glorify your name. Thank you for your many blessings that you've given all of us. And Father, we ask that your spirit be within us as we go through our legislation this evening, our decisions. And Father, we ask you to bless the families of all who are present. And Father, may we always remember your Son, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And it's in your Son's name that I pray. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let's get another little thing underway. And that would be to wish our sheriff a happy birthday. One of you that can sing, will you please lead us?
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sarah. Happy birthday to you.
Is this your house?
Okay, without further ado, I'm going to turn the meeting over to accommodation of Dr. Bob Acuff, Chair of the Budget Committee, and Carolyn Watson, Finance Director. And they will lead us as they see fit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Glad to see many of you that could make it tonight are in attendance. You have a very thick packet before you, over 200 pages. We probably will go by department, and depend heavily on our finance staff for their expertise on what's in each line item by department. So if you want to start, we'll begin with the general fund dispersed. Is that?
Yeah, the first thing in your packet, if you want to look at a summary, is, which is going to be part of the appropriations resolution. It looks like this, and this is just a summary by department. So if you need to use that for a reference, that's at the very beginning. Just a couple pages. So.
If I may interject, right behind the title page are pages that are going to let you know where these departments fall in order. The pages aren't numbered, but you still should kind of be able to turn to them because you do have a table of contents, so to speak, right in the front.
Yes, and the packets are still warm because we just finished printing them minutes ago. And we could not get the page numbers to work on the PDF, so that's why they're page numbers on the size of the document. So right behind that summary, you will also see a page that looks like this. This has your tax rate on it and gives you the breakdown of that tax rate. You will note that there is no request for a tax increase. It's the same tax rate as it was last year. It's just broken down a little bit different.
As we go through this, please ask questions. Not sure about something, address it to our finance staff. If you all are educated where we are, and how this is going to come together.
Another good resource page to look at related to the tax rate, and it's visual. I know a lot of people are trying to show them. We'll give you the breakdown of that tax rate, and in the pie chart, it kind of gives you an idea of how that tax rate is used. This is for the property tax. It'll also give you the current estimation of the value of Ronnie. He's going to give you a higher number than that. But we have to take into consideration that we are not going to collect 100% of the taxes in the first year. And so this document takes that into consideration. But this is a good resource to look at as well if you want to break down how those revenues look as far as how they work between the schools and the city schools and debt service and so forth.
After the pie chart, the next page is the request from outside agencies. You take a look at that, the request versus what was approved in committee. One of the things that we had to struggle with is the 911 increase. And in order to make that 93% increase in funding that they had asked for the TCRS contributions, we had to take away from some of our outside agencies to make that, and we're still a little short. But you'll see that they're in the budget. In order to do that, we had to strike some of the outside agencies or lower the amount that we were given.
Yeah, for those dates correct up there at the top where it says request for and approved.
So it's what's requested for this upcoming fiscal year and what was approved in the prior fiscal year is what this particular one is.
So if they requested it, then they automatically got it.
No.
We have a list of what they actually.
No, I can send out another document that will give the original request if you'd like to see that. But most of them got the same thing they did last year with the exception of two. And that was 911 and Boys and Girls Club. And then there were a couple that were completely taken out this year for various reasons.
And that request for 24-25, you can see some of the ones that were zeroed out, if you will. I can call your attention to those if you wish. That was the City of Elizabethton Fire Department, Firefighters Grant, the Tennessee Rehabilitation Center, Isaiah House. There were strong feelings about zeroing them out because they are now utilizing income from their license. They now have a license plate. Those funds are coming from Carter County. Kids Like Us, 0, as it was last year. Appalachian Trails Rescue, the same as it was last year. And that's pretty much the list. We'll explain the discrepancies there. So to the questions about outside agencies, please speak up.
If anybody would like to see the original ask, we can send that document out.
Yes, Director Watson, I believe that is something that will be needed this evening.
Okay.
Dr. Akos in charge, so.
Sorry, I looked at you
Direct your
listening.
questions to him, please.
Yes, being that we see what requested of, and then there was, you said 2 that was different. Could you explain if we're doing an overall not increase? Could you explain, since we weren't in the meetings, of the 2 that did have an increase and the reasoning why an increase for certain ones and not others?
Right, the ones that were increased, of course, were 911. They came in with a much higher budget than they had last year, basically because they needed to fund their retirement TCRS. And that was increased, but as I said, in order to do that, we had to decrease some to offset the cost to them. Isaiah House, as I explained, they asked for 5,000 last year. They were zeroed out because we felt that now that they're utilizing their own income for the license plate that they have invested in, if you will, we took them out of consideration.
Sorry, Chair, I think what I'm asking is the ones that did get the increase, not who was zeroed out. Because I know some of the other agencies sitting in on some of those had asked for more money as nonprofits. So if we're keeping everybody the same, which nonprofits did receive an increase other than what they got last year?
Boys and Girls Club received an increase. It went from 20,000 last year to 30,000 this year. And everybody else remained the same in terms of the increase. 911, Boys and Girls Club.
Did they turn in something for more?
Yes.
I guess is what I'm asking.
Yes, they had to turn in their 501c3 status. We had to approve that, or the finance department did, before they made this list.
No, that's not what I'm asking. What was the reasoning for the $10,000 increase in one nonprofit, like Loaves and Fishes and different ones? I know that they did ask for an increase when they turned in their information. How was it determined to only give one of the outside agencies other than 911 a $10,000 increase and not the other nonprofits?
Based on their service to the county and to the kids. And if you would like to see their material, Carolyn still has it.
I still have one copy of each one of them.
So
I will,
you're welcome to those, and that was a committee decision. That was an 8-0 vote.
there were several nonprofits that had received additional funding from other sources, and I think that was taken into consideration as well.
I don't have those before me. They're in my other budget packet.
I'm sorry, I was just trying to ask how that was determined
The committee
to
went
choose
through,
one and not others.
the committee went through and reviewed each individual one, and then the committee as a whole made a decision on what to fund and which ones not to fund.
If I may, Commissioner Odom, tell me if I understand you correctly. You're asking why the agency is requested more money? No.
No, how was other agencies requesting more money too? There were others, because I sit in on some of those in the beginning stages. So like, for instance, I'll just choose one, like Loaves and Fishes. I know they requested a few more thousand than what they got last year. Out of all of the agencies that appeared before the hearing, and there were more than that requested more, and some the same. If we're not doing an increase overall for them, how was, outside of 911, one nonprofit in our county chosen to receive $10,000 more dollars, and the others not receive any additional with their request for additional money. How are we going to explain that to the other agencies that no one received an increase except one nonprofit of $10,000?
And what statistics did the Boys and Girls Club have to show you their service? What did they show you to allow you to give them $10,000 more dollars?
Well, out of all the agencies on this list, they write more grants than any other agency and are funded more than any other agency outside. They serve more kids in the county than they do the city. And so we thought they deserved that. Commissioner Johnson?
Mr. Chair, I would like to comment on that myself.
Yes, sir.
As one of the things that you did point out was they do service more county children than they do city. Secondly is that you got to think about economics, Mr. Cable. Here we've got single mothers or single fathers or grandparents that are taking care of children that are working. If they have to stay with their children, they have no employment. That cuts their income down. Boys and Girls Club goes out and picks these children up, brings it to their facility, cares for them, teaches them, helps them with their homework, gives them a structured life, and feeds them. They also have enough get up and go that they solicit outside grants. You take the list of here, want to know why you would pay one more than the other, is that give loaves and fishes. Do you know how much grant they got this year? Thank you. They got vehicles, refrigerations, all the extras. Anytime, and you'll find, anytime in your non-profit organization and money that we give out from taxpayers' dollars is to the fact that they'll increase it every year and cannot to substantiate the increase.
May I have the floor, Chair? I'd like to comment, please.
Sure.
Okay, I want to back up and say, I do appreciate, and this has nothing to do with what I feel the Boys and Girls does or doesn't do. But I also know for a fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the meals that they serve are a federal program and they do get reimbursed for each meal that is served there, and it does help cover some of the staff. I also know for a fact that there is a small fee that has to be paid by every child that attends at the Boys and Girls Club. I do appreciate the fact they go out and get kids, but I have families that can't even afford certain things. And in saying that, I'm not saying we should not fund them, but because they are more of a global type, larger nonprofit, I'm just saying that there is less support for some of the smaller hometown started nonprofits that are local. And it's not that they just don't try to get grants. It's that some of them, even myself of 24 years in a nonprofit, you go into any store, would you like to give $1 here or 50 cents there in stores? They do not allow these nonprofits that are more hometown made, kind of like mom and pop versus national, does not have the same opportunities as those. So I just think it's really difficult to say right now, we're going to end our summer with 197,000 meals. I don't get any of these monies. I know how hard it is to go after grant money. So I personally am just really concerned at how we can say, because they have more money and more grants, we should give them more money. I think we should be looking at the fact of closer at just the fact of what is there. And that's my point in it, is that I was concerned with.
The budget committee took the stance that you got to have skin in the game. So we looked at people that were writing grants or asking for money from outside agencies. And by the way, if a child shows up at the Boys and Girls Club and they cannot pay, we have scholarships that we pay for them to be at the Boys and Girls Club. Yeah, I was not at this meeting that this figure was, even though I sit on the board, I was not at this meeting, and I did not vote on that increase. Nick Holder said it for me.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
one of the other items at the Isaiah House, which is well-known throughout the state and in the region, was granted none because they have, now I'm going to say, a corporate office. They have a bigger office. They just started a local organization here in the county. Down at the registered, for your car registration for new tags, they make $17.50 for every tag sold with the Isaiah House. They had over 100 tags sold since April, so do your math. The next thing is when the representative of the local chapter came in to make the presentation, we said, okay, you're asking for how much money, the $17.50 do you get? None. That money, the $17.50, comes from our taxpayers of this county. So if they are getting none and they're being taxed, what would you do?
Chad's bringing around the request from outside agents.
What I'm handing out right now is the amount that they were paid last year and then the initial request that they made to the budget. The one in the big packet that says request for, that's actually should be what budget approved for this year. So some of them have requested for more than
That's
that.
what I was asking, if it was.
We're right, this column.
I will say the Boys and Girls Club enrollment was much, well, not much, but was bigger than last year, previous years, their student enrollment. But I will also say that the Isaiah House is in Carter County, and they are a new building, which they'll be paying more taxes on too. So, works both ways.
Well, and I want to make it clear, this wasn't brought up because of the Isaiah House. I'm just looking at all of them together because I do know that I call upon all of these nonprofits, whether it's after hours for meals and the people, the children that are right now living in both of our hotels, they do go, year round for those hot meals at Loaves and Fishes. Everybody has different capabilities in our nonprofits. It's just like a wheel. And to every nonprofit, there's a wheel that keeps it rolling. There's not one that's more important than the other. And some can say, oh, they duplicate, but I don't know how many of you are aware, but there is a system that all of us nonprofits use. And it is through the Second Harvest. It is a program that you put in the person's name. And I can right now type in a name and it's going to tell me if they went to ARMS or if they went to Hell's Ministries for food. It does show if they're receiving services for other places. That is how the count is done. So, it's easy to say really quick who is this and who is that. There's a lot that are working without air conditioning in hot weather in buildings, and we're striving to find help anywhere and everywhere. So I just want to point that out because I really appreciate the long hours, and I know it might just be $2,000 here for one place that might have asked for an increase they didn't get. You don't understand what that $2,000 goes for. When you order one time from Second Harvest, you pay out $6,000 or $7,000 for a few pallets of food. Right now, I'm able to buy at the Valley Forge auction cheaper than I can at Second Harvest for myself, feeding all these kids. I can go to the grocery store and buy some things cheaper. We're doing all we can to meet the needs. So I'm just saying, be careful when you start saying and making comments. One makes a bigger impact in this county than the others. Because we don't walk in those directors' shoes. And one thing that is different, if you want to look at other nonprofits, they do not have insurance, retirement. I don't. I've been there 24 years and I can make more at McDonald's. My heart is there. So you need to look when you're looking at who's taking in the more funding. Also, how are they spending their money that they are taking in grants? And how are the employees there, or even if they have employees, what are they receiving? Because the more that you give to your staff and overhead, the more money it is going to take. But that's something that I recommend looking when you're looking at the budgets and stuff from these nonprofits. Where does their money go and what percentage of that truly goes out to the food on the table or the clothes on their back? Or how much is that percentage going towards benefits and salaries as well? Just a thought.
Mr. Chair, may I make a statement, please?
Yes, sir.
On a grander view of things and a broader view, I attended what meetings I could attend for budget last year. And there was a lot of discussion going on about how much we fund an outside agency. And it expressed at that time that at some point, we're going to have to start bringing those numbers down or start increasing taxes along the board to accommodate. Those same discussions were had this year. And a lot of those were brought down to what they got last year so we could meet the needs of 911. That was a big one. And I personally, if you look down the line, I can see more cuts in the future on down the line in different budget years. We're one of the few counties that are really connecting to these outside organizations as it is.
Washington County doesn't do any more funding outside agencies.
Yeah, I made the comment to Dr. Acuff, that if we don't start weaning them off of it, we're going to keep this. Johnson County, I don't think they provide. Washington County doesn't provide. So why is Carter County taking our taxpayer dollars and putting it into these outside agencies when they have the same opportunity to get grants as anybody else? So, you know, we raised the Boys and Girls Club $10,000. Instead of winning them, we're giving them more money. I'm sorry.
Carolyn reminds me, we'll have a $50,000 surplus, and if you add back in the cuts that we made to outside agencies, it comes to $14,500.
Just the ones like kind of what we're discussing right now, which would be Arms, Loaves and Fishes, Second Harvest Food Bank, just that level, not the other ones.
Yeah. So if you want to add those back, speak now. Although it's not a voting meeting, you can let your intention be known.
I want to say my intention in this, since I've talked before from anyway, is just, I don't think we should increase anybody. I think it is what it is. If no one else is getting it, that should be straight down the board. And there shouldn't be, as far as I understand, as far as just picking one nonprofit out there to give money. And with all of the talk that went on last year about y'all be ready, y'all get your paperwork, we're going to have to start cutting back. Is that going to be the talk this year again for next year? I'm not saying not to help them, but I'm also saying it's not right to pick one out of the bunch and give them a $10,000 increase. If it's going to be what it's going to be, then it should not be extra for as far as the outside agencies, as far as the Boys and Girls Club, looking at all of these others.
Any other thoughts? As I said, it's not a voting meeting, it's a proposed action here. In terms of your intent, Commissioner Odom has let hers be known. Commissioner Frazier.
Just a comment and also a question on the Tennessee Rehabilitation Center.
When did it, 27.8 to 0?
Yeah. What was, I was prepping for a mission trip. So what was the issue on that one?
They received funds from other counties, and Carter County was paying the majority of that. Their offices were in Carter County. They are no longer in Carter County. So we zeroed them out.
All right. And in the schedule, in the budget summary sheet,
Am I missing them on the list, or is it the vocational rehab, crippled children's services?
Yes.
There is an error then, because we did fund them in 22, 23 and last year, but both of those dollar amounts are at zero.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
that is the one where it was in question on the budget committee because all the other agencies, counties and municipalities were contributors to that amount, except Carter County was the highest contributor in comparison to Sullivan, Washington, Johnson City, Elizabethton. And the question came up, why were we the highest? So it was tasked to the mayor. The mayor made contact with the state and said, they have not even been providing services since COVID. We said, okay, the next question. Why do we have a larger amount out of Carter County than we do Washington or Sullivan? Said, it's aged old. We can't tell you why. So that's the information we received.
Yeah, that's fine. There was just a minor error in the numbers on the sheet. That was my only point. It just messes up the bottom line numbers.
I may have taken it out by accident. We turned these in 48 hours from the last budget meeting.
I'm not mad about it. I mean, you got 200 sheets here. Nobody can pull that off and not make any mistakes. Don't worry about it. I'm not concerned about that. I'm just saying, here's one.
He's checking the right document, so if it is, we can fix it in there, because we'll probably need it. Manager, if we want to make any changes, we will do those Monday night. We don't have any hope. We can't do it again. It's-
Yeah, this is just on the summary. It's technically just one sheet that has the error on it that I see. I don't know if that error carried over.
No, that's what he's, because I had to hard key a few things, because they weren't doing the job.
If I may,
Yes.
if you take a hard look at the outside agencies, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, we absolutely have to fund. Volunteer Fire Department, Rescue Squad, EMS, 911. If you take those out of the calculation, it's only like $470,000 for the remaining of the outside agencies. And if we were to replicate these in some way or another, if we were to replicate these, it would probably be a 10-to-1 return that we would have to invest to recoup it. And that's even a little bit high, because First Tennessee Development District, we have no choice but to fund them. So.
Then the other would be the library too, because once you contribute to them, you can never reduce.
Correct, it's maintenance of
It's
effort.
automatic. You don't have to determine that.
I think First Tennessee Human Resource Agency is the same way, I'm not sure. But some of these you can't get around paying. It's just that they would have to be absorbed into other particular budgets. So even if they weren't viewed as outside agencies, they would have to be absorbed somewhere else. Like probably help them over.
Okay,
Anybody has any more questions on that?
yeah, Chad's finishing that up. Few pages over, general fund, number 101. Carol, you want to walk us through that one?
Yeah, you've got a couple of summary pages here that show you the summarized revenue and expenses. If you want to see the breakdown between salary and benefits and operational costs, there's also one that is a summary by department that is helpful if you're looking, oops, that's probably backwards for you all. If you're wanting to look at the different departments individually and in total as opposed to line item. So that might be helpful as well. So if you go to the next section, that's your detailed revenue. It is detailed by line item. And that gives all your revenue streams. It's gonna give you comparisons of what was budgeted last year, what is anticipated for this year, sorta. Commissioner Avery Wynn had asked me to do an analysis, and I have been doing that. That's part of what I used as the justification for this. And so what I did is I went in and looked at all the line items. I showed you the stuff for property taxes already and how that is calculated. And that is very current and up to date based on the latest information that I got from our property assessor. But what we did on the other line items is, depending on what it was, we took an analysis of the past several years to see if it had gone up or down or what the trends were. Sales tax, we kept flat. That was a recommendation from several other larger counties that have lots more staff that can do analysis on these things. And then I actually talked to Nashville about that as well, and their actuarial team as far as what they were doing for the state budget. Several of the other things, they are honestly very, very hard to anticipate. County government revenue is very different compared to from an industry, because if you need more money, you can make more product or you can push people to sell or whatever. County government does not work that way. Some of these are difficult in the fact that they're fee-based. No idea what that's going to be. If you look at trends over the past 2 or 3 years, they're up, down, all over the place. So we just kind of had to take an average and look to see if they were trending up, trending down, or staying about normal. So that's how all of these numbers are generated. I will say that some of the, like the animal shelter and also the landfill, you know, those are a little bit different circumstances. We sat with those directors and kind of discussed what their thoughts had been for the current year, what they are looking to possibly do for the following year, and what they felt like the trends would be. Those are reflected in these numbers. And then the other large one would be the federal and state prisoners that we now have back, and it's reflected in these as well. Those grants that you would see in here are monies that go in and out. And so you'll see the money come in, but you will see the expense side of it come out, because most of them, that's the way they're set up. It's not just money that we keep and use for anything we want to. Most of them have pretty specific purposes. So if the grant is in here, then the expense side is shown in that particular budget's line items as well.
I have a question on the hotel tax.
Mhm.
The increase went up. Double.
We looked at what it's trending, but this is one in particular that was a write-up for the audit. So last year, actually, let me start 2 years ago, It was my understanding that if it's a revenue-based item, you don't have to adjust it at the end of the year. So if you get in more money, you don't have to adjust it. Well, this along with several of the other, what they call fees that come in through the court system and so forth. That wasn't quite true. So you do have to adjust them because you have to pay them back out. This was one in particular. This one was specifically written up because even though I went in last year and tried to do an estimate of the revenue based on what I had, it came in way over and we got written up for it. So this year I put it in at the max of what we got for this year. And so anticipating, hopefully I've covered it. But if we don't take in the money, we don't write the check. So it's a direct income outflow. So that one, and it's in both places, in the income and in the expense. All of the fees that are done that way, the litter grant is the same way. And so, like I said, some of the fee offices are done that way as well. And so we increased all of them to try to help anticipate having that written up on the audit, because that's a pretty simple one to fix. And yes, that one is trending very high for this year, by the way. When we go in and do these anticipations for revenue, some of them are 2 months out when I do the estimates. And there's not a lot of historical data for me to go on. I'm creating that schedule now, but historically wise, it didn't exist before this year when I started creating it. So some of it honestly is a little bit guesswork because I just don't have the data to look at to make any better decisions on it. Any more questions on revenue?
I have one. On the budget summary for 101, and then the total sheet for the estimated revenue, some of the line items are different.
Could be the way they combined up. Some of these things combine up in weird ways because it takes me a minute to figure them out from a line item standpoint.
Yeah, the actual from 22-23 and the budgeted for 25 are the same, but the budgeted / estimated for 23-24 are different.
Yeah, we found a couple of formula errors, and there were a couple of things that I did go in and correct today. This is not the schedule that goes out to the budget committee. This is a schedule that we have to do for the state. And so we fixed a bunch of stuff last year, and so we may have missed one. Also, if there's a new line item, sometimes they don't always pull them. And I have not rechecked that, like I just found 2 formula errors because I literally just finished it before we came in here. Because we couldn't create this until after Monday night's meeting, so it was a quick turnaround, we won't do that.
Which 2 schedules are you looking at here?
101 budget summary. And then the total sheet of estimated revenue and appropriate.
You said it's for last year's,
Yeah, the 23-24.
okay.
The actuals from 22-23 all match up, and the budgeted for next year all match up, but one is labeled budgeted, one is labeled estimated.
Yeah, the estimate is a different line, so that's a different schedule, so.
Okay.
on the, on the big sheets, I'll say that we went through in budget committee, and this schedule was created as to what goes to the state, so it's a little bit different than that. But it's an estimated number of where we thought we would come in. And so that's, they may not be the same. So you've got a budget, you've got an actual, and you've got an estimated. Now, that's one thing, and it's kind of too late to do that at this point, but for next year, if there are particular items, and I'll check with the state, because like I said, this is the schedule that goes to the state, to make sure that's not their requirement, but if there's something else you want to see, because we're going to try to redo a good amount of the schedule next year if time allows. Feel free to let us know, because we want the document to be something that makes sense to you as the commission, because you have the fiduciary responsibility for these numbers. And so if there is something like that and you want to see a different column in there, that's fine. We just would need to know it now in order to start working on that for next year, because this is a huge schedule. This document that you're looking at right now is about 6,000 lines long.
No, I was just curious if there was a reason, if there was a sheet that was in error or something. But
Yeah, this is
The way I'm looking at it now is you're looking at what was originally budgeted last year versus what you're looking at originally budgeting this year. So it's not taking into account any grants that's coming in as a budget amendment or anything. And that estimated is going above and beyond what was originally budgeted.
Yeah, because if we get grants in during the year, they have to be appropriated in. So they wouldn't have been in your original budget. They will not be in next year's budget, because we only book those as they occur. And typically they have a specific expense item that they are associated with as well.
in the revenue lines, where was the 1.3 in investment income that we used recognized? Or was it recognized on here at all?
That's interest income.
Do what?
It's interest income.
It's interest income? Okay.
We can move on to we can move on to the departments if everybody's ready to do that. On the county commission budget, not a whole lot of change. I do see two things that say value. Those should not say that. Those should be zero. Not a whole lot of change, as you can tell, very, very little. This budget was trimmed last year significantly. It will increase in a year that is an election year, because we have to make provision for new commissioners if they want to go to in-person trainings and travel costs and so forth. But it's pretty cut and dried. As far as the board and committee member fees, a schedule that basically has all of the people on it, not by name, but by its location and what, I don't know what committees anybody's gonna be on, but it shows that everybody would be on a committee and which ones they go to and how much they're paid for those committees. So they're budgeted at maximum, and pretty much historically, not everybody goes to every single meeting. So therefore, we usually have a surplus a little bit on that, but I have to be conservative and budget as if you will. There are a few training dollars and so forth in there as well. Next one is Board of Equalization, and that did not change. Yeah.
County mayor next.
Yeah, county mayor's next. Not a whole lot of change on that one as well. Elected officials do have state mandated increases. There was a 13% increase in health insurance. Pensions were budgeted at 6.5% this year instead of 6%. That was just based on their actuarial results. That's the biggest things that I can think of. You will see on a lot of them where they have dues and fees, office supplies, things like that. If there are contracts, a lot of the public stuff focuses on those line items because they're getting charged more for it. I think just about every elected official that has a fee they have to pay to the state had some more significant than others. I don't know why, they just were. They weren't giving an explanation other than putting the money in. Any questions on that one? Next is county attorney. That did not change from the prior year.
I'm not sure about anybody else, but I think I could benefit from us looking at these more closely and run a little bit slower. Has anybody lost your place in this packet? Do you know what page we're on and not? Somebody will come and help you get to the place we're at right now.
We caught up.
Okay, and, I would just say, give us a little bit of time to look down through there, because a lot of us are seeing this for the first time tonight. Everybody understands that numbers in parentheses are deficits, negatives, everybody know that? Does anybody on budget committee have any more advice for those who aren't as to, helping us read these, what to look for in particular?
It's helpful for me to look at on the right side of the page, the second column in, which talks about percentage increase or decrease. That has been very helpful for me to look to actually get a time frame on which line items are increasing or decreasing.
Yeah, we did add percentage increase and dollar increase, decrease. I don't think those were included last year because we found in the meetings that was helpful, and it's a little bit more of a visual. So those both have been added. There was a couple I saw where the one didn't look right on them, or they came in with a value because the other number was not 0, it was just a blank space, so that would cause it to be out. Yeah, and I apologize, I just did not have time to go back and look at every single one before we permitted it. We just ran out of time today to get that done.
Madam Chair, on your request on Budget Committee to explain, there's one thing that all the new commissioners, everything needs to understand. You cannot, as a commissioner, try to reduce a line item. The only authority you have is to reduce the total of that department's budget. If you see a line item in there that you don't agree with, tough. You have to go to the total of it, presented on the floor. You can only change the total of each department, not the line items. That's the department head.
Yeah, and you can't take away from the salary lines. Those have to stay as they are.
Are you done with the county attorney? I mean, remember, it's on 6 lines.
Do what?
Are we done with the county attorney?
Yeah.
Let's get going.
Next one is the election commission.
Yes. This one, there was some additional maintenance agreements that were required for the new voting machines. And that was the majority of the increase. She had a couple of other little minor things that she needed to. And then, as I said, across the board, all of them will be the elected official, all those are state mandated increases. And then we had increases in insurance as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead and mention that as well. As we get into some of these other county budgets beyond just the elected official increase, this budget does reflect a 75-cent increase for county employees. That is stated in a couple of the other documents. We joked today and said that was the best kept secret probably in Carter County. How that has not gotten out, I don't know, but because last year it did. It got out real early, but this year it's not been mentioned. But that is included in this document. Part-time are half of that, which has been pretty traditional as to what we've done the past, or at least the past couple of years since I've been here.
You threatened us.
Well, threatened. Well, I didn't want 250.
You didn't want to. That tells me you did then.
Well,
You said you didn't want to and then stopped. And I said, well, that's because you've already amended it.
yeah, well, I didn't want 250 phone calls. Did it pass? Did it pass? I don't know yet. It's not passed yet, so I'm not sure it's gonna pass.
Well, in essence, what's proposed for this year for the vote of this commission is equal to 4% increase or 75 cents on the dollar.
Carolyn, would you mind to address the change from HSA contributions to HRA contributions?
So we are now in the process of becoming slightly self-funded on insurance. We are trying to keep our rates lower, but keep the same benefit level that the county has given the employees for years. In order to do that, we are going into a mode of trying to fund some of that difference with the county. So now we have what's called an HRA that keeps our basic rates down. I have it budgeted in here at $1,300 per employee that is on option one. That's the only one that is affected by this. The maximum it could be is $3,500. And the thought process is that at the end of this current fiscal year that we're in now, any remaining dollars that we have in that line item, as well as in the medical line item, we will roll that into a reserve that will help us fund that going forward. that will keep our rates lower than they could have. I mean, they could have been significantly higher had we not done that. It was recommended by our brokers that a lot of counties are doing that to try to keep their rates down. We initially had it in the health insurance line. The audit team requested that we pull it out and put it into a separate line. However, that line also has your HSA, which is a benefit that the county gives to employees that take the high deductible plan. That money belongs to the employee. It does not belong to the county. The HRA money belongs to the county. So you got two items that are not like items that have now been requested to be put in the same line item. So I had to split it out, and we've done that by the code, which, you know, that gets way down in the weeds, but I split it out on here so that you can see the difference. But any monies that are remaining in either the medical line item or the HRA line item, we are recommending that we will do a, I don't know, we'll have to do a resolution, Ginger, if we can just,
It'll have to be by resolution.
that we'll move that into a reserve account. So we had two, knock on wood, up to this point, we've had, I think, two departments that have spent out more in HRA money than they budgeted. They've been funded by other departments. My department funded one of them because I had the extra money in my department and it didn't make sense to go to the fund balance to get it if I had it in my department. It's all gonna roll the fund balance at the end of the year anyway. But any money that we have left, we'll put in a reserve account. And so if we have a department that needs more money, we can fund it from that reserve account. We don't have to go to fund balance to do so. We're just trying to keep the same level of benefits and keep our rates as reasonable as possible. Does that help?
Yes.
Too much information, sorry.
Any other questions on election? If not, we can move to register of deeds.
Nothing exciting on this one. Insurance, salary increases and liability insurance. Last year also, there was a question on the breakdown of liability insurance, and it appeared that in prior years, they basically just take the number and just split it between all the departments, which really wasn't correct or fair. Some departments have more people, some get charged higher rates than others. So we went back last year and tried to fix that and make it be what it should be between the departments. So you still had a couple that went up, and it actually went up a little bit this year. We had increased, we had put in for it was 15% increase last year, and we were really, really, really close. And so we got it in as a 20% increase for this budget here for 2024.
Let's go. Too slow.
May I ask a question about the next section, I think, county buildings?
I have a question on county building.
I'm on county buildings.
You don't want to do planning?
So
Let's get
everybody's
planning.
finished with planning, you're
Everybody okay with planning?
I'll be planning.
Yeah, I noticed it on planning, but that's kind of good. Yeah, I think it kind of flew through planning.
Planning is one of those that just look a little bit odd with the insurance. And like I said, we went back in and tried to get more specific to department and just instead of taking the whole thing and just splitting it. because it just wasn't fair to the department. Planning also did ask for a new computer, so they had a $2,000 increase on that line. I mean, he was told basically by our IT staff that he didn't have choice on that, so. Now to county buildings. What was the question on county buildings?
On maintenance personnel, the difference of $34,000, can you explain that, please?
They asked for another position.
So Robin Roy, you want to start
Yes.
person?
But it's just till Ron retires, Ron's getting ready to retire. That was the explanation we were given. So they're bringing somebody in as an apprentice because the other guy, Ron Silver, excuse me, he doesn't want the position, so as supervisor. So they're gonna bring in somebody like me.
Has Ron given an exact retirement date?
He is, I think it's like next year, isn't it? But then what it said, next summer, he's out of here, so they want to bring somebody in so they'll have an easy transition.
It's a new position.
Yes.
That would experience a reduction in headcount once Ron left, correct?
No, once you put the money in there, you can't take it back. So if you add a position to that department, you cannot take it back. They can relinquish it. They can give it back, but you cannot take it back.
So what if you add the new position and Ron doesn't retire right away?
Then it's there.
Hey,
Yep.
He sounds pretty devoted to retiring though.
But
He seems mighty devoted to wanting to retire.
But you still have 3 people though. You still have to sit 3 salaries whether he retires.
yes, that is correct. And I have discussed that with the county attorney, not for this year's budget, but for, I guess it was 2 years ago. There was a discussion about that, and he explained how that process works. And basically, once you give that position, and they've put it in the budget, and they give the letter to clerk's, I think it's clerk's office or jury's office, I can't remember which, you cannot take it back out. They can give it back. They can say, I don't need that position any longer, but you can't, because you can take it back out.
Is that even with the part-time position too?
So I'm sure you all ask questions about, does it really take a year to train somebody?
Well, I think one of the things that's going to be an issue is they're wanting someone to come in to replace Ron that has a certification or a license like an electrician. Something along those lines, that saves the county money by Ron being able to do those things. So from my understanding, they're wanting to bring someone in to, if necessary, we can get out there and find someone to do that during that time frame, or even train the individual on apprentice.
you certainly won't get an electrician for $34,000. Nope. Or anybody that's certified.
You can make one.
It would be in combined with Ron's salary.
Do we already know that they have the electrician for $34,000?
Do what?
I mean, if we're talking about adding a person, do we think we even could? I mean,
We'll get an apprentice for that.
no, so I'm just saying, so if I'm understanding this right, we're gonna pay $34-something thousand, more than that, for an extra person for a whole year because he might retire next summer. Did I just understand this correct?
No,
Okay.
I don't think it was said might. I think it was, he is going to retire next
But
year.
has he put in a form that he is going to retire?
And then the county until 90 days prior to your leaving.
So then the question is, does it take a whole year to find someone to replace him?
That process will. Well, and not only that, show them the ins and the outs, because a lot of these buildings are, hundreds of years old. A lot of them are done in peg and tube, and you've got breakers in a peg and tube building, so.
But wouldn't the new person, if they're training them to be a supervisor, be making higher than that? Like the directors?
I think this is the,
This is just for the apprentice to the supervisor. Once he takes the job, yeah, he'll get Ron's job, but this is just for an apprentice, just a part-time apprentice. That's the way it was explained to us for supervisor.
But that amount remains in the budget that we can't take back unless they choose to remove it.
It started out as a part-time position, and then it got changed during the budget process to a full-time position.
Just thought, if you can't hire an electrician for $34,000, then you might be better off to wait 90 days out to where they would be knowing how much they would be paid as a director. Because if someone has that ability, are they going to want to make only $34,000 for a whole year? Or are they going to want to wait until 90 days of taking over a position of a higher pay?
I don't think he can show anybody in 90 days what he does.
But is he going to be alone showing, or is the assistant going to be with him?
The assistant will be with him, that's the whole point. That way he's shadowing him.
I mean, the other person, Roy, is he still going, the other employee is still going to be here?
You have Shannon and I guess Roy.
So, I mean, it's not like he walks out and there's no one else there. There are some employees left.
But once he shadows him, then, and I guess that's, the think process behind just that much when he knows he's going to be taking over.
I guess the question is, somebody has talent.
If he wants, if he's wanting that position, you're gonna have a training phase and that's gonna be it. And then once Ron retires, he'll step into his shoes and he'll have that pay.
Right. It's a year that he has to take a cut in pay if he has those abilities.
He's not taking a cut because he wasn't making more.
But I mean, if he
than the
makes,
job.
if it's somebody they're hiring on the outside as an electrician,
That's a great
because
idea.
they're gonna, you're saying that they're gonna make more than 34,000.
Not hiring an exact electrician, all it says is maintenance. You're gonna be the jack of all trades, but the master of none. Because you buy one more building, you're gonna be bigger than the city of Watauga. And you've got 2 people maintaining all these buildings. And they're doing it for the dollars they got here, so no, you ain't gonna hire an electrician for you can't get a German for 79,000. It's general maintenance. Anything big, you go out on contract. They oversee it.
It's kind of.
So just to clarify for all of us, if we put $34,000 into that budget line, should it be split the next year if we wanted to pay the new person and Roy additional? Or does it have to stay in a line for a third person?
They can request that it be changed.
Okay,
And then at that point, it can be changed and voted on again. It would be that way for the 24-25 fiscal year unless they come to budget and request to move the money, which they can do through budget amendment, as long as it is approved, then it can be moved. Otherwise, it will stay in that line till next year. And then next year, when they go through the budget process, they can request to take that money and split it between 2 lines or change it to something else, if they so desire.
So regardless of what happens, it stays within that budget.
Yes.
Whether it's the salary or.
Hey, anybody look at like staffing agencies? That way it would not be in a salary line item. It would be in a staffing agency line item that we would have more control over.
I don't think we have any of that at this point.
Well, basically, you got all the control to start with. You got the bottom line. You tell them what you'll give and that's it. You can't go up in the line items itself. That's not practical. Every year you have that option. The bottom line only. If you want to decrease it, if it's 35,000 a year, go to the bottom of the line, deduct 35,000, make the motion on your floor. What this commission passes is the law.
Any other discussion?
We can get some no-dos or get this thing going.
Nothing else on county buildings? Facilities?
I didn't notice the phone system.
I did.
There's a line item that says other capital outlay, and that is $110,000. The county is in need of a new phone system. The phone system that is currently in place is antiquated, and you cannot get replacement phones for it because they don't make them anymore. And so that's going to force a change. And so that 110,000 is just an estimate, it's not been put out or anything like that. That was just some preliminary quotes that had been, or preliminary numbers that had been received by the IT staff to just give an idea of what it would cost to replace the phone system. Anything else on that one? Workforce development is in here just for informational purposes. That is gone, but I didn't want it to just disappear, so I wanted you to see that it's zero. The next one is the new communication office. This was created as a department last year. This is the one that has Mark Ridings in it, and all the radio, just repair equipment and things of that nature are in this budget. He did reduce it significantly, $4,500. Last year, he had asked for additional equipment that he needed to service and repair radios. He has that equipment, and so he did not request that money again.
Next.
Preservation of records, that's your archives. That was not changed from the prior year because there was, at the point we were doing this, because this process started actually back in November of last year. But when we were putting together a budget and going through hearings, there was not a determination of whether the building would be purchased, so we just left it the same as it was. Any changes that will need to be done can be done after the budget is approved, and we can do that by budget amendment. Ready to
Is
make
there any
one?
questions? Communications?
Okay.
Go for it.
The next one is accounting and finance. That's mine. If you have any questions, nothing significant. We did increase $200 because we are in the process of trying to replace computers. Some of those computers were quite old. And so I've got it on a cycle now to where we replace either every year or every other year, depending on what the needs are. We also, but we were able to purchase those out of this fiscal year's budget, are adding scanners so we can start scanning documents into the system to make things a little bit more accessible if someone needs to look at information. also, just in a note, this is one of them, if you see a big difference in medical insurance, it's to move the HRA to a separate line. But also, when we go in and we make the budget for a department, I'm basing their medical insurance costs on what the employees had in the prior year, because that's all I know. We just went through open enrollment. So when things shift, if people choose other options, so if you have several people in an option 1 and they decide to change to option 2 or 3, that affects how the HRSA look, that affects how the HRA looks. So if you see significant differences, that's typically what's happened, is people have shifted between the options of health insurance. Or if an employee hasn't taken it in the past and they want to take it, they have the option to do so even if they didn't do it in the prior year. Because it is a required, or it is a county benefit. Any other questions? Okay.
Hands raised.
Okay, property assessor. Oh, I guess because that's an increase, decrease. Property assessor, the only change in the salary section of that one, and I'm sorry, there are a couple where I missed them where I added that in there, and there was not a 0 in the proposed column. It ended up making it have that value sign instead of a 0. There is a part-time position that is a retired county employee. We increased the hours from 986 to the standard part-time hours. That employee can only work a limited number of days. However, that gives him the opportunity to hire another part-time employee to bring them in when that employee's used all the time, basically. The assessor's office is going to be working in the far reaches of the county in the this next fiscal year. So there are places that it takes them an hour to get there from the courthouse. And so that will just help him because he has to send out 2 people at a time. He can't just send 1. So when that employee is maxed out his hours, that will help him hire someone else to go in, even if it's just for a driver, to have a second person. The other position was a full-time position that he already had. It was only in there at 30 hours, and I increased it to the 37 and a half, basically for the same reason. They are also going to have to, in the next, probably after this reappraisal that we're getting ready to go through, are going to have to shorten their reappraisal time that's coming from the state. They're going to have to reduce it probably 1 year initially, and then possibly a shorter time in the future. That's something that I've heard discussed in several forums that I've read and listened to. That is definitely going to happen. And so that's difficult for a county like ours that is so rural. Even, Washington County is not as rural. Knox County, anything big like that, you can go in and you can hit a big neighborhood at once. But like, for example, next year, they're going to be way out, and so they need more staff. So that's why that was added. Any other questions?
Mr. Frazier.
What was the change on the pension line for?
Next year it's $20,139.05.
The amended budget's not correct.
Well, the original for 23-24 shows 0, but 22, 23 shows 16.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that number's not correct.
Okay.
I'm circling any that we found that are not correct, because like I said, we did not review this before we did it, we didn't have time. Any questions on reappraisal? That's one of Ron's as well. Because the reappraisal was the same way. It's like that line's not figured. The amended budget for 23-24 for pensions is wrong on both of his.
Because, well,
Yeah, I don't know why. Because the original budget is correct, but the amended budget is wrong. We did not do a budget amendment to take it out. I did that for a fact.
so is it staying the same for 22, 23, or did it go up to the 21, 39 because of the person?
It would go up a little bit. But what I'm saying is the amended column is wrong for that particular line item. I don't know why. He's looking as we go through and we're finding stuff, so we can go ahead and get it corrected.
And the proposed is correct.
Yes.
Okay, this do you come take a break, sir?
This may be fine before we do the first office.
Okay.
We take a 72-hour break. We can get back Monday night.
We will take a 10-minute break beginning now. Thank you.
I don't know.
I'm just leaving. Just look, you only got.
Are we ready to get started back?
Ready, ma'am?
Yes, yes, sir.
We're on the county trustee's office. County trustee.
Items to note in this one, there is a full-time or part-time position that is being moved to, requested to be moved to a full-time position. And, let's see. That's the majority of the change on this one. They will be getting the new software, but we decided to take that out of other funds, and that did reduce their cost for maintenance agreements. So that's the main two items on that one.
Could you explain that a little more, just explain that a little bit more, what new system and where did you take the money from?
The next gen system would be what they're going to do. That money is coming out of ARP funds. We have some money left over in the administrative line. And that will reduce their current maintenance costs for the next fiscal year because it will be new equipment. It was originally in this budget.
And how much is that? How much?
24,000 was for the equipment. And I apologize, several of these have value in them because there was not a zero. I added that column today in hopes that it would be helpful. So if it says that, that's because there is a zero in 2 columns over and, or should have been, and it's a blank spot. That's what causes it to be value. So it would be 0. So you're not missing any numbers.
Okay, so what I think I just heard you say is that in a budget meeting, since the last one I attended, you now basically have that whole $35,000 position covered. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
No,
Two different things.
she's talking about the program.
Yeah, I'm talking about the program.
Computer program.
Right, but I'm just looking at the 14.6 and maintenance agreements that has gone down.
Just for 1 year.
Oh, that's just a 1 year.
Yeah, that's just 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah, the maintenance agreement will go back up because it's new software. It's not, it's part of the cost of the software for the first year. The position change is a permanent change. He did take out the part-time line item that was initially in there, and he did take that out. So that does cover part of the cost.
Thank you.
Any questions about the trustees office?
Basically, they won't have a maintenance agreement. Is that what you're saying?
They won't
They won't have a maintenance agreement, is that right?
for 1 year.
Clerk's office is next.
No significant changes here. She did have a couple of maintenance items that, because some of her equipment is older, that is requiring more attention. And she had some addition in fees, but other than that, that's pretty much it.
Questions? Circuit court is next.
Basic increase is related to salary items and insurance. Everything else stayed pretty much the same as it was the prior year.
Salaries were adjusted by mistake.
For the director, or for the elected official, yes. Any that were changed within regular personnel are either shifts between positions or they are raises. Also on this one, the medical insurance, they came in, that took medical insurance, and the employee that left did not. So we took the full increase there.
Other comments, questions? Next up is Sessions Court.
Sessions Court, the main increase is the judge's salary. Last year, the number that we were given by the state was not correct. Did not include the correct increase for that position, so it appears as the difference is significant increase, but that includes what was done prior year, which we corrected for this year, at the end of the year, and then the increase on top of that. So that's why it looks significantly higher in comparison.
Chancery Court is next.
We have increase on that one except for
Salaries.
that was the majority of the departments did not ask for a lot of increases. And last year you requested them to take out 4%, which a lot of them did, and most of them did not ask for that back. They only asked for what they absolutely needed.
Next is other administration of justice.
Pretty much the same thing as it was the prior year. One line item changed. Which is insurance.
When we come to public safety, Sheriff's Department.
Birthday boy. This is a large one. Any questions on any specific areas? One thing to note on the equipment with the SRO grant, we do purchase equipment with some of that as well as salaries. So if you see an increase in equipment, that's part of that.
The SRO would be the 54110. It'll be 716,170. Added that line, I did not add the description.
Sheriff Fairley, is overtime still a bit of an issue? Or since you've got many more employees now, is that gonna get better?
It's a complex type issue. Last year, to help alleviate the $5 an hour raise, we gave that up and we had to start doing comp time. Well, we started building a lot of comp time up for officers. That's why we have asked to put that back in there. And it also helps these officers that maybe having issues, and if we have any shortages, to offer paid overtime versus comp time. It's really would help us out with that consideration.
Any others on the sheriff's? All right, next item is up at the jail.
That one does show increases because we have more inmates. We have the federal contracts.
Questions regarding the jail budget? If there are none, juvenile services is up next.
No significant changes on this one.
Questions? If there are none, fire pollution control is next, which is volunteer firefighters.
That was no change from the prior year.
Okay, next up is EMA.
No significant changes on this one as well.
One question, I noticed there's no overtime pay in the previous years, but then there's a $6,000 overtime.
They do not get overtime.
It's showing.
We have $6,000.
EMA,
No, it's a bonus payment.
I'll look at that, so it's not. That's weird.
It has it below the bonus payments, but when you get out.
Is it on, did it pull in the wrong line?
It must have, because it's a decrease in bonus payments and it's added it to the.
Overtime.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
$187.
And I apologize, like I said, we didn't have time to look at this. When we set this initial date, I thought we were gonna finish with budget on the end of May, and we didn't. We finished it Monday night, so we basically turned this in 2 days.
So noted.
I know, we tried really hard, but we had some things that came up at the last minute that had to be addressed, so it's too late. The meeting had already been advertised, so we just have to roll with it.
And to note of that, the next one is inspection and evaluation.
And there was really no change on that.
Thanks there. Next is the coroner's budget.
Very little change other than moving that per diem.
budget up is other public safety.
No change from the prior year.
We go to public health and welfare.
I would just like to hear a brief explanation of the $140,000 increase on other salaries and wages.
Caroline can explain this much better. There was, because these are, the state sets salary wages for certain positions over there, and the state funds some, the county's portion that is funded will not change. So those are reimbursed through the state, but she would be much better to explain that.
That's sufficient, thank you.
It was a win for her department and no additional cost.
Great.
Animal shelter is the next one.
There was a change in position on this one. She took a full-time position and split it into two full-time positions because of this, just the staffing that she needed. That seemed to work better, so it ended up saving better because we don't have the benefit costs.
Also great, thank you.
Next up is ambulance, emergency medical service, which also includes crippled children services, general welfare assistance, and other services. Questions there, I take.
I just, are you on, like the page that starts off with ambulance, emergency medical service? And under general welfare, so we've moved the Shepherd's Inn to this instead of an outside agency. Is that what's going on there?
Outside agencies are shown in here as well.
Okay.
And so line items, and we tried to go in and name them correctly because I'll be honest with you, some of them were very difficult to find and determine which one was which based on the way they were worded. So we went in and tried to correct those to make it a little bit more user friendly.
Recycling. Recycling's up next.
And that also, that next page also includes a lot of your outside agency.
Parks and Rec. Ask questions. Parks and Rec's up next.
Parks and Rec is next.
questions on this?
The question, city park, parks and recreation. Yeah, 25,000 and 23, 24, 25,000, 24, 25. You got an increase of 25,000?
One is City Parks and Rec, and the other one is County Parks and Rec.
Oh, look at the city park. Got an increase of 25,000.
No, it was just 25,000.
Oh. It's been 25 every year.
Percent increase.
That's the, as I said, I added this afternoon. That probably was not a good idea. But I was trying to give you a little bit of additional information. And like I said, we didn't check every single line. I just spot checked the columns. I shouldn't have tried to add it this afternoon.
We've got that one flagged. No other concerns or questions, we'll move on to agriculture and natural resources.
County Parks and Rec Fund, it would look at it,
Pardon?
county park.
Yes.
$51% increase or decrease. We just got them back to 33,115.
Yes, County Parks and Rec did decrease that budget. And it's just funding the friends groups, I guess is the best way to state that. It's groups that help maintain the county parks on the county's behalf.
Natural resources. No other.
I was gonna say no significant change on that, just, that way, this comes from the state. And not county employees. County just funds them.
Next one is flood control. That's out with that.
No changes in our.
Any other, starting out with other operations, tourism? I think there's much change there. Tourism, other operations.
Well, first, missing developments down at the bottom, but there
Right,
are changes on it.
That brings us to veteran services.
Basically, no change on that either. A request for $200 additional for travel. That's it. The next two pages are all zeros. Those are the things that have been in the budget the prior year. You can see they're zeros now. The next year I'll take them out. I just didn't want them to disappear.
Miscellaneous. Brings us to highways.
Tough, Shannon.
Nathan can answer your questions on this one.
consider.
Solid waste.
Next is Fund 116, which is the landfill. Lots of changes at the landfill. The main request on that is repairs for equipment that is needed, and that's the majority of the addition to $100,000 plus just other residual insurance, things of that nature. Some other items are increasing that just can't be helped.
Questions on that group?
One big drop on the truck drivers. One big drop on the truck drivers.
He's done a lot of staffing changes, and so these numbers are based on what he is saying he needs at this time. That would be a better question for Chris. I'm not gonna try to know the ins and outs of that one.
Basically, he moved a truck driver to an equipment operator.
Yes, I mean, he's shifted a lot of things around as far as positions are concerned from what the previous administration had. It seems to be working well. Their numbers have looked much better than they've had. Some of his expense lines are going down. Some of them have gone up because of needed repairs, especially on vehicles. The revenues are coming up too, by the way.
So that brings us to the health department.
The 117 is the health department, the portion that the county funds. And it remains the same as the prior year.
Moving along.
Brings us, I think, to the. General fund number 122.
It is.
Hey, Chair, we've overlooked the highway department. Highway department. We were looking at them and it said about them.
You did what?
There has been nothing said about it. It was in our package. It was listed in front of solid waste.
Yeah.
You had highway.
Where were you at?
Same place you're
Did
on.
y'all hear him give Shannon a hard time?
Y'all was asleep.
Gary even knew where he's at.
I went over that.
Said Sheila.
Since Gary knew, I apologize.
Mine was in a different order.
I'm in so confused now.
Gary even knew. Who, Gary?
Oh, are you talking about the litter? The litter grant?
64 $4,000.
The litter grant changed, technically Mike's department does it, but it's been in the highway department budget since I've been here. We did increase it to the maximum amount of the grant because they are now utilizing it because they have the staff to do so.
Doc, did you say we're going to number 122?
Drug control fund.
Okay. So we said that all we're gonna do for the health department.
It didn't change.
It didn't change. It's the same amount.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay. Next is Parks and Rec. We talked about that one earlier as well, 101 funds, Parks and Rec.
Still there, the rest of them. And then say about American Rescue Plan Act.
On the ARP funds, with discussion with the comptroller's office, we are not going to budget for those. We are just going to do check requests as those items come along. We have the list that's in packets every month. What those funds have already been allocated for, some have been sent, some have not. So we'll just use that list as our accounting for that and not try to do a budget for it.
No questions, we'll move on to Highway Public Works Fund.
So this is the full highway department, including the revenues and the expenses. There was the litter grant part of it.
This is fairly lengthy, so look at it.
It's back there. Well, I mean, this one just. Because it's budgeted doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, correct?
Under other local revenues, the sale of gas got rolled into the sale of materials and supply.
Yeah, it's all going on.
Why did only part of it roll and not all of it?
I don't know. We have to take, what we have to do, just so you understand, we take the budget schedules that you all have and we have to import them into the schedule. So if there's an extra line in there, if we didn't catch it, it may go onto the wrong line.
Okay.
So we spot checked them, we did not check every single line. Yeah, it just got cut, pasted to the wrong one. It's one line up from what it should be for that one in the sale of gasoline. Sale of recycled materials.
Any others? Highway?
Shannon, is that an increase in consultants because of all the bridge work you're gonna be doing? Okay, thank you.
One other thing, Carolyn, on the estimated revenue, 22-23 from the state of Tennessee, I'm assuming that's gas tax, was 3.2 million, and this year it's 7.5 million. Is that what that's related to? Or is that in addition to the bridge aid?
Say that again so I can make sure I'm looking at the right thing.
It's on the very first sheet, the revenues and appropriations, one that's got the green bar on it. And it's got other local revenue, and then it's got state of Tennessee. And like 22-23 was 3.2 on the actual. This year's estimated is 7.5.
It's probably due to a grant. I know this, fuel tax did not go up significantly. It actually, up until recently, has been trending down, which is why we did not show an increase for it this year. So that's probably related to grants because all those come from state of Tennessee as well. There's also a line item that had been in that budget for 2 or 3 years. Shannon and I discussed it. We didn't get the money for the last 2 years, so this year we took it out. He did get a lot of extra state grant money, if I'm not mistaken. Correct. And that was for paving and bridge work, if I'm not mistaken.
It's like 2.9 million.
Yeah.
Any others? I'm going to make a recommendation here. With regard to school funding. Since we only approve, or do not approve, I suggest we not look at it. If there's an objection, I agree.
You know, 141, you have on the authority just like you do other departments, but the rest of it is federal funds, but you have no say so. 141 is the only one we contribute money to, that we finance something.
Say anything about it?
141 does include the wages for closing on the school locations. And they did balance their budget. And their funding is based on the minimum requirement by the state through the TISA formula from the county.
Any comments on 141? So I would suggest that you, it's on 141, that we skip to general debt service fund number 151 in the life school side.
The only change related to debt service is the fact that we didn't have another loan. So I did change the tax rate so that it funds the amount of that loan. And that's based on the amortization schedule for both the jail loan and the HDS.
What was the 35,000 from the state under the revenue?
EDA.
Okay.
That service,
I just added the new one.
also have the general operations for the. Somebody was asking about that the other night.
Yes, it's at the back of the packet. I've included, I tried to include some additional supplemental information that I thought would be helpful.
The comments on the back packet.
No, the school, capital projects that will be used for Hunter, they're not putting those in as, budget items, or they'll just spend it out as the project goes along. They'll start with their grant funding first, then go to that, and then go to any remainder that is out of their fund balance. So that's kind of the methodology for that. And then in the very back, I included the amortization schedules. A couple of people had asked about those for the lines. And revenue by source, if you wanted to see how our revenue stacks up and what our revenue sources are. And then there is another schedule that is kind of a summary with some quick explanations on some of the measures that you. Those are at the back of the packet, just some additional items that I threw this afternoon that I thought might be helpful. Thank you. So I apologize for the, trying to do something at the last minute. I'm just trying to give you the information.
Any other questions for?
Maybe we'll bring us back Monday night, because we know the issue right.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you how many pages of paper we went through this afternoon trying to copy these. It was what, about 2.5 hours to copy?
One on there.
So you need to vote.
I'm sorry that you have to come back Monday night, but we've got a regular meeting Monday night. I may ask you to approve, a change to the agenda and just allow you to have a short discussion of anything else you want to ask about the budget, but we cannot vote on the budget. We cannot make any changes to the budget on Monday night. That is reserved for the 25th. So keep that in mind.
If you have any questions, feel free to call or email. Email would probably be best. I have a record of it and I can respond to the email.
Okay, does anybody have anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Take
All right, good night. Have a good weekend.
Okay, finally reached the.